The massive screens aboard the Galactic Council's observation ship flickered with images of the blue planet below. Senior observer Zixtal's 4 eyes blinked in confusion as he studied the readings for the third time. Something wasn't adding up about this newly discovered world called Earth. "Run the scans again," he ordered his crew. His long, silvery fingers tapped nervously on the control panel. "There must be an error in our equipment." The junior observer, Renka, adjusted her sensors and shook her head. "The readings are correct, sir. The species called humans have nuclear weapons, orbital satellites, and advanced military technology, but they haven't used them against each other in over 50 years. This made no sense to Zixtal. In his 300 years of studying primitive species, he had never seen anything like this. Every other race they had discovered with such weapons had either destroyed themselves or were constantly at war. "Show me their military bases," he commanded. The screens changed to display various human military installations across the planet. Massive ships floated in their oceans, aircraft stood ready on runways, and soldiers trained in organized formations. But something was different about these forces. "Sir," Renka called out, her voice filled with surprise. "You need to see this." The main screen switched to a scene of human military forces in action, but instead of fighting, they were helping people. In one area, soldiers were building homes after a natural disaster. In another, military ships were rescuing refugees from a sinking boat. Military aircraft dropped food and supplies to areas hit by floods. "Fascinating," Zixtal whispered. "They maintain the power to destroy themselves many times over, yet they use it to help each other." The observation team spent the next 3 days studying human history. They found records of terrible wars in the past, conflicts that had nearly destroyed the species. But then something changed. The humans had somehow learned to turn away from war while maintaining their strength. "Sir," one of the technicians called out, "we've intercepted some of their entertainment broadcasts. They call these stories movies and shows. Many of them are about preventing wars, not glorifying them." Zixtal watched in amazement as humans told stories about choosing peace over violence, about finding ways to understand their enemies instead of destroying them. Even their children were taught these ideas from a young age. "The Council needs to know about this immediately," Zixtal decided. He began preparing his report, knowing it would cause quite a stir among the galactic leaders. His report began. "In all our years of space exploration, we have discovered many species capable of war. But today, we have found something far more rare and valuable. A species that is capable of peace while maintaining the strength for war. The humans of Earth have achieved something remarkable. They have not grown weak. They have grown wise." As Zixtal finished his report, he looked once more at the blue planet below. The humans didn't know they were being watched. They didn't know that their choice to turn away from war had caught the attention of the galaxy. They didn't know that soon, very soon, they would be welcomed into a community of stars that desperately needed their unique perspective. "Send the report," he ordered, "and prepare for first contact procedures. I believe we have much to learn from these humans." The observation ship's engines hummed to life as it moved into a higher orbit. Soon, humanity would learn they weren't alone in the universe. But the galaxy would also learn that sometimes the greatest power lies not in the weapons you possess, but in choosing not to use them. The first official meeting between humans and the Galactic Council took place in a large conference room at the United Nations building in New York. Ambassador Sarah Chen watched as the alien delegates examined the honor guard with obvious confusion. "These soldiers?" asked Zixtal, his translator converting his clicks and whistles into English. "They are trained for combat." "Yes," Sarah replied with a smile. "But they serve many other purposes too." The alien delegation followed her through the building, their 4 eyes constantly moving, taking in every detail. Outside, a military helicopter flew past, carrying supplies for a nearby disaster relief mission. "You see," Sarah explained, pointing to the helicopter, "our forces are always ready to help wherever they're needed. Last week, They helped evacuate a town before a hurricane. The week before that, they delivered medical supplies to a remote village. Renka, the junior observer, consulted her datapad. But your species spends enormous resources on these forces. You have ships that could destroy cities, aircraft that can fly faster than sound, and weapons of incredible power. Why maintain such strength if not for war? Sarah led them to a large display showing various military operations around the world. Because strength isn't just about fighting. Look here, this is one of our nuclear submarines. Last month, it helped map underwater earthquake zones to protect coastal communities. And these aircraft carriers, they're floating hospitals and disaster response centers. The aliens watched as more images appeared. Soldiers building schools in poor communities, military scientists working on climate change solutions, and armed forces conducting rescue operations in dangerous conditions. But how do you resolve conflicts? Asked Zixtal. Surely other nations threaten you sometimes. Sarah pressed a button, and a new image appeared. A large building with the words Global Conflict Resolution Center on its front. We still have disagreements, she admitted. But we've learned better ways to solve them. Would you like to see? The delegation entered the center, where teams of mediators worked with advanced communication technology. On one screen, representatives from different countries discussed resource sharing. On another, cultural exchange programs were being organized. Fascinating, Zixtal murmured. You've turned your military intelligence networks into information sharing systems. Exactly, Sarah smiled. Our satellites track climate changes and natural disasters. Our communication networks connect people instead of coordinating attacks. We've learned that understanding each other is more powerful than fighting each other. One of the younger aliens raised a hand. But what if someone attacks you? What if they don't want peace? Sarah's expression grew serious. We maintain our strength precisely so we don't have to use it. Our message to potential aggressors is clear. We're strong enough to defend ourselves, but wise enough to choose peace first. The tour ended in a memorial garden, where monuments stood to remind people of past wars. This is why we keep our military, Sarah explained softly. Not because we want to fight, but because we remember when we did. Every soldier, every ship, every weapon serves as a reminder of what we overcame. Zixtal stood silently for a long moment, all four eyes focused on the monuments. Finally, he turned to Sarah. Your species is even more remarkable than our initial observations suggested. You haven't just avoided war. You've redefined what military power means. As the alien delegation prepared to leave, Renka made one final note in her report. The humans have achieved something unprecedented. They've turned the machinery of war into tools of peace, without losing their ability to defend themselves. This challenges everything we thought we knew about civilizational development. Sarah watched their ship depart, knowing that humanity's example might change not just Earth, but the entire galaxy. Sometimes, the most powerful message comes not from what you can do, but from what you choose not to do. Special investigator Zixtal sat in the quiet archives of the Human History Museum in London, his four eyes fixed on the holographic displays around him. After 3 weeks on Earth, he still couldn't believe what he was discovering about humanity's past. Play historical record 2025 to 2045. He commanded his AI assistant. The holograms change, showing scenes of the last major conflicts on Earth. Images of destroyed cities, refugee camps, and military confrontations filled the air around him. Zixtal's skin changed color to a darker shade of blue, his species' sign of sadness. How did they change so much? He wondered aloud. No species just stops fighting overnight. His assistant, HFY-7, responded in its calm voice. Sir, I found something interesting. Records show a significant technological breakthrough in 2045. The hologram shifted to show a laboratory where human scientists worked on strange-looking headsets. Dr. Sarah Chen's grandmother, Dr. Linda Chen, led the team. The Empathy Network, HFY-7 explained. the first device that could share human emotions and memories across distances. Zixtal leaned forward, his interest piqued. The footage showed two world leaders putting on these headsets. Their faces changed from stern to shocked, then to understanding, as they experienced each other's memories and feelings. "Show me what happened next," Zixtal ordered. The holograms displayed a rapid series of events. The empathy network spread across the globe. Political leaders, military commanders, and ordinary citizens began using it. People could finally understand how others truly felt, what they feared, what they loved, what made them human. "Access military records from that period," Zixtal commanded. New images appeared. Army generals from different countries experienced the pain of their enemy soldiers. Leaders felt the suffering of refugee families. Warriors understood the fear of civilians caught in crossfire. "Remarkable," Zixtal whispered. "They didn't just stop fighting. They made it impossible to ignore the cost of war." He walked through the museum's halls, studying the transformation. Military bases became humanitarian centers. Weapon factories converted to produce medical equipment and disaster relief technology. Space programs focused on exploration instead of orbital weapons. A young human guide approached him. "Finding what you're looking for, investigator?" "Yes, but I have questions," Zixtal replied. "Your people still face problems. Resources are limited. Countries still disagree. Why don't these issues lead to war anymore?" The guide smiled and led him to a special exhibit. "We call this the memory wall. Would you like to try it?" Zixtal nodded, and the guide helped him put on a modern version of the empathy headset. Suddenly, he wasn't just watching history. He was feeling it. He experienced the joy of former enemies becoming friends, the relief of soldiers returning home to their families, the hope of children growing up in peace. "This is what changed us," the guide explained. "When you truly understand others, war becomes unthinkable." Zixtal removed the headset, his hands shaking slightly. He had investigated many species across the galaxy, but none had found this solution. Humans had discovered that the path to peace wasn't through better weapons or stronger armies. It was through better understanding. Back in his ship that evening, Zixtal began his report to the Galactic Council. "The humans have achieved peace not by becoming weaker, but by becoming wiser. They didn't just stop fighting. They made themselves incapable of ignoring each other's humanity. This discovery could change the entire galaxy." As he looked down at the peaceful blue planet below, Zixtal realized that humanity's greatest invention wasn't their empathy network. It was their choice to use technology to bring people together instead of pushing them apart. "Perhaps," he thought, "this is why we found Earth at exactly this moment. The galaxy needs this lesson more than ever." The emergency meeting of the Galactic Council erupted in chaos. On the giant screen before them, images showed the Krythak warships attacking the peaceful Zenith colonies. The Krythak, known for their aggressive nature, had launched a surprise attack on 3 peaceful worlds. Ambassador Sarah Chen sat quietly, watching the other alien species argue. It was humanity's first major galactic crisis since joining the Council 6 months ago. "We must respond with force," shouted the delegate from Proxima. "But that will start a galactic war," warned another. The Council leader, a tall being made of shifting crystal patterns, raised his hand for silence. "Perhaps," he said, his voice translating into all languages, "we should hear from our newest members. Humans have unique experience in such matters." All eyes turned to Sarah. The room fell silent. The humans had earned respect for their peaceful nature, but many wondered if they were too soft for galactic politics. Sarah stood up slowly. "Show me the current situation," she requested. The screens changed to display real-time footage. Krythak ships surrounded the colonies. Civilian ships tried to escape. Medical facilities were overwhelmed with injured people. "How many civilian ships are trapped?" Sarah asked. "Over 300, replied the Council's military advisor. "The Krythak have blocked all escape routes." Sarah pressed a button on her communicator. This is Ambassador Chen. Initiate Operation Safe Haven. Priority 1. Within minutes, the screen showed new activity. Massive ships appeared near the conflict zone. Earth's humanitarian fleet. These vessels, converted from old military ships, were painted white with red crosses. Each one was bigger than the largest Krythak warship. "What are you doing?" asked Zixtal, who was now a senior council member. "Those ships have no weapons." Sarah smiled. "They don't need weapons. Watch." The Earth ships moved forward. When the Krythak fired, the shots bounced off advanced shield technology. The human vessels didn't fire back. Instead, they opened massive bay doors. "Those are our newest rescue ships," Sarah explained. "Each one can carry 50,000 people and provide medical care for 10,000. The council watched in amazement as the human ships deployed smaller rescue vessels. Teams of highly trained Earth personnel, wearing advanced protective suits, began evacuating civilians from the colonies. "But the Krythak," someone started to say. As if on cue, more Earth ships appeared. These ones deployed huge energy shields, creating safe corridors for escape. The Krythak weapons couldn't penetrate them. "Impossible," the military advisor exclaimed. "How did you develop shields this strong?" "When you spend 50 years focusing on protection instead of destruction," Sarah replied, "you get very good at keeping people safe." The screen showed more human ships arriving. Some carried food and medical supplies. Others provided emergency shelter. Earth's space fleet, the largest in the galaxy, was moving with perfect coordination, not to fight, but to help. A message came from the Krythak commander. "What kind of trickery is this? Why do you not fight back?" Sarah took the communicator. "We're not here to fight you. We're here to show you a better way. If you want to talk, we're ready. If not, we'll still help everyone we can." The council chamber was silent as they watched. The Krythak ships, faced with an enemy that refused to fight, seemed confused. Their attacks became less coordinated. "This," Sarah said to the council, "is how humans handle conflict now. We don't fight wars anymore. We work to make them unnecessary." Zixtal nodded slowly. "You're not just rescuing those colonists, are you? You're teaching the entire galaxy a lesson." "Yes," Sarah replied, watching as more rescue ships arrived. "The greatest victory isn't defeating your enemy. It's showing them they don't have to be your enemy at all." The massive Earth diplomatic vessel Peace Horizon floated near the Krythak fleet. Inside, Dr. James Rodriguez prepared his team for their most ambitious mission yet. They weren't carrying weapons. They carried something far more powerful, the latest version of Earth's empathy network. "Are you sure about this?" asked Zixtal, who had come to observe the human approach. "The Krythak have never accepted diplomatic missions before." James adjusted the settings on the empathy network devices. "Sometimes," he said, "people fight because they think it's their only choice. We're here to show them another way." The main screen showed the Krythak ships still hovering near the colonies. Earth's humanitarian fleet continued its rescue operations, protecting civilians with their advanced shields. The Krythak hadn't fired a shot in 12 hours, confused by the humans' non-aggressive response. "Captain," James called out, "are we ready to transmit?" Captain Maria Chen, Sarah's cousin, nodded. "Broadcasting on all frequencies. The Krythak will hear us." James stepped forward and spoke clearly. "Krythak Command, this is Dr. James Rodriguez from Earth. We request a meeting. We have something to share with you." Minutes passed in tense silence. Then, surprisingly, a response came. "Humans, you fight without weapons. We do not understand. What could you possibly share with warriors?" "Understanding," James replied simply. "Will you let us show you?" To everyone's surprise, the Krythak agreed. Their lead ship sent a small delegation to the Peace Horizon. The Krythak warriors were tall, muscular beings with thick armor and proud expressions. They looked ready for battle, not diplomacy. James greeted them respectfully. Welcome. Would you be willing to try our communication technology? It lets you experience others' memories and feelings. The Krythak leader, General Kraz, laughed. Feelings? We are warriors. We care about strength, not feelings. Then let us show you true strength, James said calmly. He handed them the empathy devices. Experience what your attacks felt like from the colonists' perspective. Cautiously, the Krythak put on the devices. The effect was immediate. Their tough expressions changed to shock as they felt the fear, pain, and confusion of the people they had attacked. Children crying for their parents, families separated, homes destroyed. But James didn't stop there. He showed them something else, scenes of Earth's past wars and how humans had changed. He showed them the power of choosing peace, of using strength to protect rather than destroy. General Kraz removed his device, his hands shaking. This is not what warriors should feel. No, James agreed. It's what leaders should feel. True strength isn't in making others fear you. It's in helping them trust you. The Krythak delegation watched as more Earth ships arrived, bringing medical help and supplies to both colonists and damaged Krythak ships. They saw their injured warriors being treated with the same care as the colonists. Why? General Kraz asked. Why help us when we attacked you? Because that's what strong people do, James explained. We're strong enough to fight, but wise enough to choose not to. We're strong enough to help, even those who try to hurt us. The Krythak leaders looked at each other, then back at their ships. For the first time in their history, they saw their actions through others' eyes, and they didn't like what they saw. Perhaps, General Kraz said slowly, the Krythak have something to learn about true strength. As the diplomatic talks continued, Zixtol made another note in his report to the Council. The humans have achieved something unprecedented today. They didn't just stop a war. They may have started a revolution in how species think about power and conflict. Earth's humanitarian fleet continued its work, a silent but powerful testament to humanity's message. The strongest response to violence isn't more violence. It's showing there's a better way. 1 year after the Krythak incident, the galaxy was changing in ways no one had expected. On the former Krythak warrior world of Kraz Prime, General Kraz stood beside Ambassador Sarah Chen, watching his people's newest ships take flight. These weren't warships anymore. Like Earth's vessels, they were painted white with medical symbols. The Krythak, once feared as the galaxy's most violent species, were becoming known for something entirely different. Tell me again, Kraz asked Sarah, about your first humanitarian mission. Sarah smiled, remembering. It was a flood in what we used to call South Asia. Our military ships carried supplies, our soldiers built homes, and our doctors healed the sick. We learned that helping feels better than hurting. Kraz nodded, watching his former warriors learning to use medical equipment. My people are beginning to understand this too. Yesterday, my son said he wants to be a rescue pilot, not a war chief. The changes weren't limited to the Krythak. Across the galaxy, species that had watched the humans' peaceful response were starting to question their own ways. The empathy network, now shared freely by Earth, was spreading rapidly. On the Proxima colony, former enemies worked together to build new cities. In the Orion sector, traditional warships were being converted into research vessels and hospital ships. Even the ancient Zix species, known for their careful neutrality, had started their own humanitarian fleet. Ambassador Chen called a young Krythak student, running up to them. We just finished our first emergency response training. When can we join the next rescue mission? Sarah checked her data pad. There's a team heading to help with the solar storms in the Centauri system. Would you like to join them? The student's eyes lit up with excitement, the same excitement that once would have been reserved for battle training. Later that day, in the new Galactic Peace Center, formerly the War Council Chamber, representatives from 50 species gathered to discuss the latest developments. Zixtol, now the head of the Peace Council, led the meeting. The numbers are remarkable, he announced. Galactic conflicts have decreased by 80% in the past year. Military budgets are being redirected to scientific research, medical care, and disaster response. The screen showed images from across the galaxy. Former war academies becoming schools for emergency responders. Weapon factories retooled to produce medical equipment. Soldiers learning to be rescuers. But the most surprising change, Zixtal continued, comes from the Krythak themselves. New images appeared, showing Krythak ships leading rescue missions, their former warriors now protecting the weak instead of attacking them. Their fierce strength, once used for destruction, was now saving lives. A Proximan delegate raised her hand. Is this permanent? Can species really change so completely? Sarah stood to answer. On Earth, we have a saying. The hardest victory is the one over yourself. The Krythak didn't just stop fighting. They found a better way to be strong. General Kraz stepped forward. My people were wrong about strength. We thought it meant making others fear us. The humans showed us it means making others trust us. The meeting continued as more species shared their experiences. Some had centuries of war behind them. Others had been peaceful but afraid. All were learning from humanity's example. As the day ended, Sarah found herself back on the observation deck with Kraz, watching ships from different species working together on a rescue mission. You know what's strange? Kraz said quietly. My warriors are happier now than they ever were in battle. They feel proud in a different way. Sarah nodded. That's because they're fighting for life now, not death. And that's a battle everyone can win. The stars twinkled above them, watching as the galaxy learned what humanity had discovered years ago, that the strongest warriors are the ones who choose to protect rather than destroy. 100 years after humanity shared their empathy network with the galaxy, Zara Chen, the great-granddaughter of Ambassador Sarah Chen, stood at the podium of the Galactic Unity celebration. Above her, thousands of ships from different species floated peacefully in Earth's orbit, their hulls gleaming white in the sunlight. A century ago, Zora began, her voice broadcasting to trillions across the galaxy. My great-grandmother helped show the galaxy a different path. Today, we celebrate not just peace, but understanding. The massive screens behind her showed images from the past 100 years. The transformation of the Krythak from warriors to protectors. The conversion of warships to rescue vessels. The spread of the empathy network across thousands of worlds. In the audience, elderly Zixtal, now nearly 400 years old, sat beside young Krazta, the grandson of General Kraz. Both smiled as they remembered their ancestors' roles in this great change. The question we're most often asked, Zora continued, is why humans never go to war anymore. The answer is simple. We remember. We remember what war cost us, and we remember what peace gave us. The screens changed to show the galaxy's newest achievements. The Great Shield Network, originally designed for war, now protected planets from natural disasters. The former war colleges had become the galaxy's finest medical schools. Military intelligence networks now tracked climate changes and predicted natural disasters. But perhaps the most remarkable change, Zara said, gesturing to the ships above, is how we use our strength. On cue, ships from 50 different species began a ceremonial display. But instead of showing military power, they demonstrated rescue operations. Earth vessels deployed their advanced shields. Krythak ships launched medical pods. Proximan crafts showed their evacuation capabilities. 100 years ago, ships like these would have carried weapons, Zara explained. Today, they carry hope. In the audience, representatives from across the galaxy nodded in agreement. Many remembered their own species' journey from war to peace. The empathy network had shown them not just each other's pain, but each other's potential. A young alien child raised her hand. But what if bad people attack us? Zara smiled gently. That's why we maintain our strength. Not to fight wars, but to show there's a better way. Our ships are faster, our shields are stronger, and our technology is more advanced than ever. But we use this power to protect, not to harm. The screen showed the latest statistics. No major conflicts in 50 years. Military budgets across the galaxy redirected to exploration, medicine, and science. Former enemies working together on massive projects to benefit all species. We keep our strength, Zora continued. As a reminder, every rescue ship was once a warship. Every medical station was once a military base. We transformed our tools of war into tools of peace, not because we had to, but because we chose to. In orbit, more ships arrived for the celebration. Among them was the newly commissioned Sarah Chen, Earth's largest humanitarian vessel. Its mission: to carry hope and help to any world in need. My great-grandmother once said that the strongest response to violence isn't more violence. It's showing there's a better way, Zora said, her voice filled with pride. Today, we are all stronger because we choose peace. We are all safer because we choose to protect rather than destroy. As the celebration continued, Zixtal turned to young Krasta. Did you ever imagine, when your grandfather first met the humans, that the galaxy would change this much? Krasta shook his head. No, but that's what humans taught us. Sometimes the greatest strength lies in imagining a better future and then choosing to build it. Above them, the ships of a peaceful galaxy danced among the stars, their white hulls shining like beacons of hope. They were more than just ships now. They were symbols of how far the galaxy had come, and reminders of why humans never go to war. Because in the end, humanity's greatest victory wasn't winning wars. It was teaching the galaxy how to live without them.